Hello to the world, my name is Dairuka Sutane and I am what is known as a puppet master. Not just any puppet master, I am the master of every country unfortunate enough to wind up within my purview. Why? Because puppeting everything in sight makes you an ungodly amount of money. It's not unusual for me to rarely play beyond my initial borders as a country, because conquest itself has too many initial costs that hamper my growth over the long run. But war is still very much profitable, as there is something to be said about the majesty of a 121,000 diplomatic surplus. Just because you happen to get Cuba, Persia, Chile, Shiwa, Tigray, Benin, just look at all of that, all of these beautiful countries under my oh-so-caring guidance. Aside from the occasional cultural revolution, there is rarely any consequences for assailing them down. Even if you happen to have an extremely isolated market that you're carefully tending to, you can simply give each puppeted country its own market, and unless they happen to have a bigger army than you, they'll still love you even if they claim to have 100 Liberty Desire. As for which countries are the best ones to take, countries with the possibility of attaining very large GDPs while maintaining very bad relations with great powers and tiny armies in comparison to their GDP are your best targets. If you happen to start as a great power like France, Prussia, or Austria, your best bets are going to be Persia, Chile, Argentina, Sind, Makran, and maybe even Kalat if you can get it. If you happen to start as a tiny, almost insignificant country and manage to only build a single boat with 20 sailors manning the deck, say like my 1940s run of Transvaal here, your best bet are to pick off countries with 0 standing army or even just 1 standing army. Good examples of countries that meet those parameters include the Maldives in the Madras strategic region, Mara and Lahej, well, Kathiri too if Russia doesn't support them, in the Arabia strategic region. Then there's Bhutan and Tidor if the Netherlands isn't supporting them in the Indonesia strategic region. You can also aim to puppet Sulu and eventually Brunei too, but they're both better off being directly conquered because the gold that you can get from these states is far, far more valuable than anything you can get from simply puppeting them. Many consider Gaza to be a prime target for puppeting, but like North Borneo, it's actually better to simply conquer Gaza so you can take Transvaal and Orangia states, which also gives you direct access to plenty of eventual gold mines. It also allows you to directly colonize the North Cape colony for even more gold mines. If the country you're trying to puppet is large enough, it is imperative that while you're puppeting many of these countries, that you take treaty ports even if you're playing a small one-state country. This gives you the possibility of increasing the amount of ports you have access to later on, as well as giving you more waterside states to build your navy in. Remember that even 1 sailor is enough for you to get another navy boat, which can be used for even larger naval invasions. If the treaty port has too few population, simply greener pasture it, and if it lacks qualifications, build a university or drop a social mobility decree to get it to actually get what you need. By gradually increasing your navy, you'll eventually be able to tackle slightly larger yet still weak targets like Warsangali, Isaac, Ossa, Margentine, and even Galeti if they aren't backed by the British in the Ethiopia strategic region. There will also be Dahomey, Oyo, Benin, and the Congo in the Central African strategic zones, with only Oyo having any real chance of becoming backed by France or Britain. Back in the Indonesian strategic region, you'll eventually have access to taking Aceh, Perak, Selangor, Johor, Kutai, Maguindano, and Siak. Of course, as the game progresses, these countries can become backed by larger great powers, so always keep an eye out for any would-be interventionists. In South America, there is Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, and eventually Ecuador, with only Chile having any real chance of ending up backed by a larger power. Sometimes Ecuador can end up under the scope of the United States, but that's relatively rare. Finally, there is the often overlooked but still very vital tropical vacation state of Hawaii in the Oceania strategic region. Make sure you don't overlook this one. It's a really easy place to take, and there's rarely ever anybody backing it. If you're a recognized country, you won't immediately receive any money from your recently protectorated country. To remedy that, you actually have 3 routes going forward. You can focus on playing nice with them and improving relations, or even adding offer knowledge sharing or support regime. By doing that, you can lower their liberty desire to a point where it's under 25, allowing you to decrease their autonomy for free. Alternatively, you can take them to task and invade them a second time, this time reducing their autonomy, although it will cost you a little infamy to do so. The third possibility requires a little previous knowledge of the formable and releasable country's layout. Conquering a country and then releasing it immediately makes it your puppet, with only the infamy cost of conquering it being your penalty. It's also the only method that is instant for recognized countries. Unrecognized countries don't have to worry about any of this because they automatically get 20% of a tributized country's GDP. I hope this guide contains some information that you found useful. If this kind of content interests you, please leave a comment to let me know. Also, make sure to like and subscribe. Finally, it would help me out immensely if you checked out my other videos and YouTube shorts. Thank you again for watching, and remember, Hail Hydra Cat.